Brazil, you need to develop billion-dollar resource projects. It's always very important to be in the right jurisdiction. So Brazil, the right of law, the right to contracts are respected and grandfathered. Meaning, if you have a contract to supply or a concession from the government and it lasts another 20 years, even if there's a change in law, your contract is going to be respected under the former law. So they're grandfathered for the period you signed it for, which is very important in terms of foreign investment. And even myself, as a Brazilian, you know that you can invest and have the right of law that you own the assets.
So that worry as an emerging market, you're saying that's not there for Brazil. Well, you have, among your portfolio of companies, you have oil and gas exploration, but you've yet to have actual production. You've found, what, 6.7 billion barrels of oil. When do you expect to bring that to market? We're
going to start producing now in August, so it's very fast. And what's very important, 90% of our areas are in shallow waters of Brazil. They're not the pre-salt Petrobras area. Ours is shallow waters, which mean very low lifting costs, $8 lifting costs, plus literally the same productivities per well as in the pre-salt areas. 40,000 barrels a day per well is extremely high productivity, so which means very lower capex. So when you have $8 lifting cost, shallow waters, 40%.
And oil at $100 a barrel.
Yes, it's a bonanza. These are bonanza assets.
Where does oil have to be for you to be profitable?
All in, $22.
Wow.
Yes.
So it's a very good year to be to be in this business for you.
Shallow waters, Brazil has a jurisdiction, and taxation in Brazil is also extremely civilized.
What do you think of President Rousseff's administration? Because clearly Brazil has celebrated in the global boom, but there are worries about Brazil perhaps overheating now. Your own finance minister has pointed a finger up towards the U.S. and said, easy money flowing in, a little bit too hot here.
That's a great problem to have if you have to use traditional monetary methods to cool your inflation. Our interest rate is at 11.75, and inflation is hovering around 5.5%. So you have a real interest rate there of in excess of 5% just to cool down the economy, because Brazil has some bottlenecks. One of my companies, debottlenecks, is trying to help Brazil debottleneck through superports. We're building two large, gigantic
biggest
ports.
Port in the Americas, right?
Yes, biggest port in the Americas, to basically help Brazil cope with this, potentially inflation pressures.
There are worries, though, about a credit bubble, credit risk there. I mean, do you think that the Rousseff administration is acting appropriately to try to rein in some of those worries?
I think there was a little bit of over-expenditure from the part of the government, but one of the first measures of our president was to, cut the spending, government spending, by 50 billion reais. Initially it was supposed to be 40. She stepped it up to 50, and if more is necessary, she will do, just to keep the discipline of the fiscal surplus, which President Lula maintained so nicely over his 8 years.
Well, President Obama is going to Brazil later this week. This is going to be the first foreign trip of the year. What kind of reception is he going to get?
I think America, the last 20 years, I think America's attention to Brazil was below expectations. And even I heard from your former American ambassador to Brazil, Mr. Sobo, who said to me, Eike, Brazil is not on America's map, politically speaking. I think this realignment with America, with Obama and Dilma, in the areas of technology, in the areas of education. Columbia University is looking towards eventually building something in Brazil, schools. You have GE has announced research center. I understand Cisco and IBM is also looking to build research centers in Brazil. Just show that the appetite is increasing dramatically, and I think with the blessing of a president coming, it's simply, I think Americans like to see the government, showing a little bit the way. I think you create a new wave of interest. The reason why we bought Ventana is that I see that the asset is 3 times bigger than what the people who owned it thought it was. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to spend $100 million re-engineering the whole thing and showing everybody that it's 3 times larger.
Well, then what about competition with yourself? I mean, do you feel that particularly in your in those particular assets with gold and mines of that ilk that you are set, or do you see further acquisitions?
Oh no, I definitely see more acquisition because Colombia is very, very rich and people is being rediscovered. Colombia was very rich, but you know, in the regions we're active, the FARC was very active,
right.
the guerrillas. So for 30 years, these areas have been kept untouched, if you want, which was, so thank you.
Is Colombia the market you're most excited about outside of Brazil?
Yes, I only invest in 3 countries in South America: Brazil, Colombia, and Chile. These are, you know, because of these set of rules, you know, great jurisdiction, decent taxation, you know, skilled people, legal framework that you can work, you know, very well.
With OGX, your oil and gas exploration business, you talked about bringing oil to production in August. For those fields in Colombia, you said 2012.
Yeah, end of 2012, yes.
You're still on
These
that
are
schedule?
onshore, yeah, because it's onshore, right? Much easier. Onshore oil is so much easier to and so much faster to develop.
There's a lot of excitement about Colombia lately. Carlos Slim just bought into an oil company there, Tabasco as well.
He's following me, huh?
Is he following you?
It looks like, yes.
A little bit of rivalry there, perhaps?
Absolutely. It's nice competition, healthy competition.
Well, do you view it that way? He's what, #1 on the world's rich list. You've already said you want that spot.
Yes, by 2015, yeah.
By 2015?
I've been telling him, I'm telling him that he should clean up his right rear mirror and his left and on the top, because I don't know, I'm going to pass through one of these sides.
Well, any chance that perhaps that timeline gets a little shorter with the commodity boom we're seeing?
Yes, there is. There is, because see, in our 5 companies, we have an embedded growth story of 10 years. And so it's just let's time go by. And obviously, if commodity prices go higher, Mr. Slim is going to be, yes, number 2, 3, I don't know.
Yes. Well, he's got a few years. Where would you put your net worth in the next few years? By 2015, where will you be? You're at about 30 billion, is that right?
Yes. By 2015? 80?
80?
Yes.
Not bad to have goals like this.
No.
Tell me, though, about your plans more seriously for your companies. Do you intend to, as part of that, bring more companies to the public markets in the year ahead?
Yes, we have 5 listed public companies. We're preparing 2 to go public in a year from now, roughly. It's the coal mine in Colombia and the gold mine in Colombia. And we intend to list them in London, Bogota, and Sao Paulo at the same time, because the markets are very nice in Colombia, and London is the mecca for resources.
And the rockiness that we've seen to the markets, that hasn't moved that timeline out. You're still sticking to that.
No, it's quality assets can always go public, you know, and our assets have the classification of world-class assets, meaning very big, low cost, you know, always in the first quartile in terms of cost, and very high quality of product. For instance, well, gold is gold, it's not the question of quality, but coal, Colombian coal is what they call compliance coal, very high calorific value per ton, plus very, very low contaminants.
What's your outlook for oil?
I happen to believe in peak oil, meaning, you know, if we in Brazil have to find oil in 2,000 meters of, not me, I'm in shallow waters, but Petrobras is undertaking a going to the moon operation. Because imagine 2,000 meters of water level, then another 5,000 meters down, cross a salt layer that is up to 2,000 meters. You know, if mankind has to do this to bring this oil into to us consumers, you can see that the shortages are for real.
You think we're running out of oil?
We are. We definitely are.